A member of the Kalenjin people of the Rift Valley province, William Ruto was born on the 21st of January 1967 in Sambut village, Kamagut, Uasin Gishu County, to Daniel Cheruyot and Sarah Cheruyot. William Kipchirchir Samoei Arap Ruto started his education at Kamagut Primary School, then transferred to Kerotet Primary School, both situated within the Uasin Gishu County, and he sat for his Certificate of Primary Education (CPE) at the latter. He then proceeded to Areng Secondary School, still in Uasin Gishu County, and later Kapsabet High School in Nandi County, where he obtained his ordinary level and advanced level education, respectively. He then enrolled at the University of Nairobi to pursue botany and zoology, graduating in 1990 with a Bachelor of Science. He went on to complete a master's degree in plant ecology, also from the University of Nairobi. The year after his graduation, Ruto enrolled for a PhD at the same university, but only completed and graduated much later, on the 21st of December 2018. As a scholar, Ruto authored several papers, including one titled Plant Species Diversity and Composition of Two Wetlands in the Nairobi National Park, Kenya. During his time in the campus for his undergraduate education, William Ruto was an active member of the Christian Union. He also served as a chairman of the University of Nairobi's choir. Through his church activities at the University of Nairobi, Ruto met President Daniel Arap Moi, who would later introduce him to politics during the 1992 general elections. After graduating from the University of Nairobi in 1990, William Ruto was employed as a temporary teacher in the North Rift region of Kenya from 1990 to 1992, where he was also a leader of the local church choir, the African Inland Church AIC. Ruto began his political career when he became the treasurer of the YK92 campaign group that was lobbying for the re-election of President Daniel Moi in 1992, from which he learned the basics of Kenyan politics. He is also believed to have accumulated some wealth in this period, wealth that continued to grow to date. After the 1992 elections, President Moi disbanded YK92 and Ruto unsuccessfully vied for various branch-level positions in KANU, which was at the time Kenya's ruling party. Ruto ran for parliamentary seat in the 1997 general elections, and he surprisingly beat the incumbent Reuben Chesire, Moi's preferred candidate, as well as the Uasin Gishu KANU branch chairman and assistant minister. He later gained favor with Moi and was appointed KANU's director of elections. His strong support in 2002 for Moi's preferred successor, Uhuru Kenyatta, gets an assistant minister in the Home Affairs, Interior Minister. Later in that election, when some government ministers resigned to join the opposition, he was promoted to full cabinet. KANU lost the elections, but Ruto retained his parliamentary seat. William Ruto was then elected KANU's Secretary General in 2005, with Uhuru Kenyatta as chairperson. In 2005, Kenya held a referendum on a new constitution, which KANU opposed. Some members of the ruling NARC coalition government, mainly former KANU ministers who had joined opposition coalition in 2002 under the LDP banner and who were disgruntled as President Kibaki had not honored a pre-election MOU on power sharing and creation of a prime minister's post, all joined KANU to oppose the proposed constitution. Since the symbol of the no vote was an orange, this new grouping named their movement the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM. Ruto was part of its top brass, dubbed the Pentagon, and he solidified his voter base in the Rift Valley province. ODM was victorious in the referendum. In January 2006, William Ruto declared publicly that he would vie for the presidency in the next general elections of 2007. His statement was condemned by some of his KANU colleagues, including former President Daniel Moi. By this time, ODM had morphed into a political party. Ruto sought the nomination of the Orange Democratic Movement ODM as its presidential candidate, but on the 1st of September 2007, he placed third with 368 votes. The winner was Raila Odinga with 2,656 votes, and the runner-up was Musalia Mudavadi with 391 votes. William Ruto expressed his support for Odinga after the vote. As the KANU party under Uhuru Kenyatta moved to support Kibaki, William Ruto surprisingly resigned from his post as KANU Secretary General on the 6th of October 2007. The presidential elections of December 2007 ended in an impasse. Kenya's Electoral Commission declared Kibaki the winner, but Raila and ODM claimed the victory. Moi Kibaki was hurriedly sworn in as the president after the December 2007 presidential elections. Following the elections and the dispute over the results, Kenya was engulfed by a violent political crisis, and Kibaki and Raila Odinga eventually agreed to form a power-sharing government. In the Grand Coalition Cabinet, named on 13 April 2008 and sworn in on the 17th of April same year, William Ruto was appointed as Minister for Agriculture. Ruto also became the Eldoret North Member of Parliament after clinching the seat in that 2007 election. Later on, Ruto would be among the list of 6 people who were indicted to stand trial at the International Criminal Court for their alleged involvement in the Kenya's 2007-2008 political violence. However, the ICC case against him was faced with challenges, especially concerning the withdrawal of key prosecution witnesses. In April 2016, the International Criminal Court dropped the charges against Mr. Ruto. On the 21st of April 2010, William Ruto transferred from the Agriculture Minister and posted to the Higher Education Ministry, swapping posts with Sally Kosgei. On the 24th of August 2011, William Ruto was relieved of his ministerial duties but remained a member of Parliament. He joined with Uhuru Kenyatta to form the Jubilee Alliance for the 2013 presidential elections. On the 6th of October 2014, Ruto was appointed acting president of Kenya by the then President Uhuru Kenyatta, following Kenyatta's summons to appear before the ICC court. Ruto served in the role between 6th and 9th October 2014, while President Kenyatta was away at The Hague. When he officially handed over power to Ruto at the parliament on October 6th, Uhuru explained, "To protect the sovereignty of the Republic of Kenya, I will sign a legal notice appointing Honorable William Ruto as acting president while I attend the status conference." In the August 2017 general elections, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto were declared victors after garnering 54% of the total votes cast for the president. However, the Supreme Court of Kenya nullified the elections, and a fresh election was held in October 2017. The opposition boycotted the fresh elections, and Uhuru and Ruto were re-elected with 98% of the votes cast. The Supreme Court upheld the results of this second election. In December 2020, Ruto announced his alliance with newly formed United Democratic Alliance Party, UDA. He was the only presidential candidate to attend the second part of the 2022 presidential debate. On the 15th of August 2022, 6 days after the general elections were held on August 9th, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Chair Wafula Chebukati announced that William Ruto had won the elections, defeating the other candidate Raila Odinga of the Azimio la Umoja Party. Ruto received 50% of the valid votes cast, while Odinga received 48.85%. Raila Odinga disputed the presidential election results announced by the IEBC Commission, and he challenged the results at the Supreme Court of Kenya. On the 5th of September, the Supreme Court judges unanimously found that evidence presented by Odinga's campaign was inconclusive, and they upheld the elections of Ruto as the winner of the elections. In response to the ruling, Odinga said he respected the Supreme Court's decision, even though he strongly disagreed with it. On the 13th of September 2022, William Ruto was inaugurated at Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, in a ceremony presided over by Chief Justice Martha Koome and attended by over 20 heads of state and government. The inauguration day was declared a public holiday. Attendance was very high, with groups of general public clashing with security officials when trying to enter the stadium. However, the event continued peacefully. Following his official inauguration, Ruto officially began his term as president of Kenya. After taking office, William Ruto pledged to address climate change and end the use of fossil fuels in Kenya's electricity production by 2030. On the 18th of September 2022, President William Ruto made his first foreign trip as a head of state to the United Kingdom, during which he attended the state funeral of the late Queen Elizabeth II on the 19th of September 2022 at the Westminster Abbey in London. 2 days later, on the 21st September 2022, President William Ruto made his debut address as head of state to the United Nations General Assembly UNGA in New York. In September 2022, William Ruto said the Horn of Africa was experiencing its worst drought in 40 years, adding that 3.1 million people are facing severe drought in Kenya alone. When he was asked about the ongoing Tigray war in northern Ethiopia between government forces and Tigray rebels, Ruto said that whatever happens in Ethiopia gets to Kenya. Speaking about the Somali civil war, he said that Kenyan troops will come back home as soon as we are done with the assignment that we have in Somalia. In November 2022, Ruto's government launched the Hustler Fund, a loan program that grants immediate loans to Kenyan citizens. In 2023, Ruto proposed a large-scale privatization of public enterprises, noting that it's not economically viable to keep pumping government resources into sustaining those corporations. On June 25, 2024, at least 5 people were killed when public order broke down over tax protest. President Ruto had proposed several tax rises, saying that more than half of Kenya's annual tax revenues were being spent to service debt. The increased taxes were proposed on everything from car ownership and financial transactions to sanitary pads. On the 11th of July, William Ruto sacked most of his cabinet, save for the deputy president and prime cabinet secretary, and the next day, the police chief, Japhet Koome, resigned after 40 people died over the past month in the Kenya Finance Bill protests. Japhet Koome, the police inspector general, was held responsible for police violence against protesters. In September 2024, William Samoei Ruto and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz signed an agreement that opened the German labor market to up to 250,000 jobs to be availed to migrant workers from Kenya. Throughout his political career, William Ruto has been linked to several controversies, some including corruption and misuse of public office. We will now look at some of these controversies. Ruto has been involved in a land-grabbing saga involving his mysterious acquisition of Western Hotel land, pitted against public counter-accusations with several state corporations in Kenya, all surrounding the original owner of the land. According to the Standard, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority KCAA, a state agency, was duped into surrendering the land on which the Western Hotel was built. It's claimed that in 2001, KCAA, which originally occupied the land, was given alternative pieces of land belonging to another state agency, the Meteorological Department of Kenya. KCAA did not occupy the alternative piece of land upon which Ruto's Western Hotel was built. According to KCAA, a powerful cartel working in the lands ministry was involved in a conspiracy to relinquish the same piece of land, with several land ministry officers also involved in the conspiracy. In January 2019, it emerged that according to another state agency, the National Lands Commission, William Ruto owed and needed to pay the people of Kenya for the land totaling 0.773 acres opposite Wilson Airport, upon which the Western Hotel was built. In February 2019, William Ruto publicly admitted that the Western Hotel land had been acquired illegally by the original owners who sold him the land, and that he had no knowledge of the matter. In August 2020, Ruto offered to pay the state agency for the land. Later in 2020, KCAA refused to be compensated for the land and so demanded demolition of the hotel because it was acquired illegally through fraud and corruption. According to the KCAA, the public land was designated for the construction of headquarters and flight paths, and it had disposed of the land in illegal collusion with private entities, namely Priority Limited and Monene Investments, both reported to be associated with Ruto. Later in the same month, another legislator, Ngunjiri Wambogo, demanded that all other cases in Kenya involving stolen property to be thrown out as long as suspects were willing to compensate for it, in an effort to complain about the preferential treatment that Ruto was receiving for his involvement in the state's stolen property. In December 2020, the KCB Bank backed Ruto in the court battle to repossess the land, fearing the loss of security against the advancement of 1.2 billion shillings in Western Hotel associated with Ruto. In 2004, William Ruto was charged with defrauding another state corporation, the Kenya Pipeline Company KPC, of huge amounts of money through dubious land deals. He was acquitted in 2011, but in 2020, just as his relationship with President Uhuru Kenyatta seemed to falter, the police reopened investigations into the case. The case would, however, end up closed again with Ruto becoming president. The other controversy that involved William Ruto was the Muteshi land case. In June 2013, a court ordered Ruto to pay a victim of 2007 and 2008 post-election violence some 5 million shillings for illegally taking away his land during the post-election violence. In the same judgment, Ruto was evicted from the land grabbed in Uasin Gishu. Adrian Muteshi had accused Ruto of grabbing and trespassing on his 100-acre piece of land in Uasin Gishu after Adrian, had fled his land for safety during the post-election violence of 2007 and 2008. In February 2014, William Ruto appealed the court order to pay 5 million shillings fine. In 2017, Ruto withdrew the appeal against the judgment. In October 2020, Adrian Muteshi died of an unspecified cause of death at the age of 86. The other controversy that involved William Ruto was Joseph Murumbi's 900 acres land. In October 2019, the Daily Nation reported that Ruto's acquisition of a 900-acre piece of land that belonged to another former Vice President, Joseph Murumbi, haunted Ruto because he had been involved in the irregular acquisition of that land. In the same month, Ruto claimed that the articles were persistent and obviously sponsored fake news. Later that month, a human rights lobbyist, going by the name Trusted Society of Human Rights Alliance, called for an investigation into the mysterious acquisition of a 900-acre piece of land that formerly belonged to a former Vice President, Dr. Murumbi. According to the allegations, Joseph Murumbi had been involved in a dispute over loan defaults with a state corporation, AFC, against the land that was pledged as a security for the loan. It is alleged that Murumbi defaulted the loan and AFC took over ownership of the land that was eventually sold to Ruto after he paid off the loan owed to the state corporation. The other widely known controversy that was linked to William Ruto was the assassination of outspoken politician Jacob Juma. Ruto has been widely and repeatedly linked to the assassination of Juma by several media, activists, politicians, opposition figures in Kenya, including Jacob Juma himself. Jacob Juma was a wealthy businessman who became a fierce government critic and anti-corruption crusader, and who became known for posting targeted cryptic tweets against Ruto and the Jubilee government months before he was assassinated in Nairobi. In December 2015, Jacob Juma, in his tweets, claimed that Ruto was obsessed with killing him. In May 2016, Jacob Juma was shot dead along Ngong Road. In the same month, during the burial of Jacob Juma, a former Lugari MP, Cyrus Jirongo, and previously close ally of Ruto, claimed that Jacob Juma had physically assaulted Ruto by slapping him for having a sour relationship over unspecified reasons. Jirongo urged police to investigate the assassination based on that assault. Later in the month, Ruto threatened to sue Jirongo for linking him to the assassination of Juma. Jirongo claimed that he and another former minister, Chris Okemo, were personally involved in paying the murdered government critic university's tuition fee, and that he knew the matter surrounding the controversy all too well. According to Jirongo, the same assassins were involved in the murder of Mesha Kiebei, another murdered prospective defense witness in the ICC trial against Ruto. In June 2016, the Canadian newspaper Financial Post and the Kenyan newspaper The Standard both reported that Jacob Juma was a director of a Canadian company, Pacific Wildcat, whose license to explore $2 billion worth of minerals in Kwale County in Kenya was cancelled just after the Jubilee government took over. This cancellation led Jacob Juma to call for a press conference where he claimed that the then mining minister Najib Balala was demanding for a bribe to have the cancelled license reissued to the company. This cancellation led Jacob Juma into personal financial ruin, and it was reported that he was routinely borrowing money. He became a fierce government critic after he felt shortchanged out of the mining license that eventually caused his company to lose money. According to a different company official of the same Canadian company, Ruto and Balala demanded transfer of the mining company's license to a new company, with the Kenya government to receive a 50% stake in the new company for free. This eventually led Jacob Juma to become fiercely critical of Ruto and the Jubilee government in tweets, media interviews, court filings, and political correspondence with opposition figures, as well as diplomatic missions in Kenya. It later emerged that Jacob Juma had promised the board of the Canadian company, Pacific Wildcat, that he would fight bureaucratic delays as well as the corruption that would stand in the way of getting the mining license. A high court ruling in Kenya found that the mining minister was right to cancel the license of the Canadian company. In October 2016, photojournalist and activist Boniface Mwangi also linked Ruto to the assassination of Juma. Consequently, Ruto sued him for defamation. According to Ruto's lawyer, the claims by the activist had lowered Ruto's standing among Kenya's high-thinking people. In December 2016, one of the personnel from Ruto's office was reported to also link Ruto to the assassination by delivering a letter to Mwangi to help with his defamation case against Ruto by providing details of the murder by persons in Ruto's office. In the same month, it was reported that the personnel was to be charged in court for extortion. An investigating officer claimed that the arrested personnel from Ruto's own office claimed that another personnel in Ruto's office called Rono had credible information that activist Mwangi could be killed in a stage-managed road accident. The arrested personnel from Ruto's office was later sent for mental checkup after he further claimed that he was coached to lie about his claims of Jacob Juma's murder by activist Boniface Mwangi. In February 2017, it was reported that Mwangi claimed Ruto wanted him dead like he killed Jacob Juma. The other big case that attracted a lot of controversy around William Ruto was the International Criminal Court case against him. In December 2010, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court announced that he was seeking the summons of 6 people, including William Ruto, over their involvement in the 2007 and 2008 electoral violence. The ICC's pre-trial chamber subsequently issued a summons for Ruto at the prosecutor's request. Ruto was accused of planning and organizing crimes against supporters of President Kibaki's Party of National Unity, PNU. He was charged with 3 counts of crimes against humanity, 1 for murder, 1 for the forcible transfer of population, and 1 for persecution. On the 23rd January 2012, the ICC confirmed the charges against Ruto and Joshua Sang in a case that also involved Uhuru Kenyatta, Francis Mudhaura, Henry Kosgei, and Major General Mohammed Hussein Ali. Ruto told the US government that the Kiambaa church fire on the 1st of January 2008 after the 2007 election violence was accidental. In 2009, the Waki Commission report said that the incident, which captured the attention of both Kenyans and the world, was a deliberate burning of live people, mostly Kikuyu women and children, huddled together in a church in Kiambaa on January 1, 2008. In April 2016, the International Criminal Court abandoned the prosecution of Ruto. Another significant incident happened on the 28th of July 2017. On this day, Ruto's home was targeted by at least one attacker armed with a machete, and the police officer on duty guarding the residence was injured. During the time of the attack, Ruto and his family were not at the compound, for he had left hours earlier for a campaign rally in Kitale. There were reports of gunfire, and several security sources said that the attack was staged by multiple people. Police initially thought there were few attackers because the attacker used different firearms. Around 48 hours later, Kenya Police Chief Joseph Boynet announced that the attacker had been shot dead and the situation was under control. In his personal life, William Ruto is married to Rachel Chebet. They first lived in Dagoretti, where they had their first child. They were married in 1991 at the Africa Inland Church. They currently have 6 children. Ruto is an evangelical Christian and a member of the African Inland Church. Amongst other properties, William Ruto owns a chicken farm in his own village of Sugoi, which was originally inspired by his stint as a chicken hawker on the Nairobi-Eldoret-Malaba Highway. Ruto and his wife built a chapel in their compound at their residence in the current suburb of Nairobi.